I wasn't as heavy anymore, and I wasn't constantly bogged down by these negative thoughts that were just constantly circling in my brain all day, and making me anxious, and all this stuff. And it just one day I was like, oh, I feel like myself. You did not make me feel alone. I felt supported, things and excited, and I can plan things in the future instead of being like, oh no, but what is OCD gonna, have for me? What it's gonna be in store for tomorrow?
Sarah, thank you so much for joining me on the You're Not Alone podcast today. I'm very excited to have you on the show. Obviously, we're going to be talking about your journey of living with OCD, coming through our coaching program, and coming out the other side. So, this is like one of those really exciting moments where we get to talk about your progression and just your journey to where you're at now. So obviously that warms my heart, and I'm excited to talk about that. But for the listeners tuning in, they don't know your story the way that I do.
Nope.
So nope. So I want to take a moment, give you the floor to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your story with OCD, your journey that led you to um, our coaching program, and then we can kind of go from there.
Sure. My name is Sarah. I live in Arizona. I am married. I've been married for, it's going on 8 years. We've been together 7 or 10, sorry. And I have 3 kids, 2 stepkids, and a daughter of my own. And I am a dog and cat mom. So I've got lots of pets running around here. But my journey through OCD started when I was very young. I think probably the first time I remember having sort of um, thoughts that I couldn't control. I must have been 5 or 6. It was pretty little, but compulsions didn't really start until I was about 11. At 11 years old, I became very afraid that if I didn't do a certain amount of things, that my mother was going to get hurt on her way to work, or, if I couldn't watch her physically or be with her physically, I had to do certain things to make sure she got out the door, go outside and say goodbye, and, do these certain things that made me feel like everything was going to be okay. That was probably the first time that I was like in a compulsive cycle of, trying to control things that I didn't have control over.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember us talking about that in,
Mhm.
in our sessions. And
Yeah.
so tell me a little bit more about like how the OCD progressed as you got older.
As I got older, I mean, I think I always had it on and off. It presented itself in several different ways. I had relationship OCD with my first husband, pretty severe for about a year and a half. And then that went away and it slid right into, oh, I'm going to hurt my daughter. I just had my daughter and she was about 1.5 when that hit
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
And, so one just cycled into the other. I didn't really replace it. I just got a whole new set of thoughts that, were controlling my life and controlling how I felt. And I was very anxious. And, I worked through that probably on my own. I didn't realize that I had OCD until much later in life. I just thought I was extremely anxious. That's what I thought about myself. And then, life changes and other things happen in life that, pop up, and then that kind of subsided. And then in the last year, I started having really bad anxiety again, and OCD popped up. Didn't know it was OCD.
Mm-hmm.
I was, kind of Googling everything, trying to figure out what is going on with me. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
what
Yep.
is happening here? Here I am again. And just kind of spinning out of control. And at that point, I didn't find you, you found me. And I think it was just, I had done enough Googling that Instagram was like, you might want to take a look at this. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you popped up on there, and it was a video about rumination. And that is my strong suit, for lack of a
Yeah.
better word.
A lot of us, a lot of us OCDers are pretty good at rumination.
I am a professional at rumination. And it, caught my eye, and it sparked, some interest. And I'm like, huh, that sounds like me. So I quickly went to your page, and I probably went through maybe 10 or 15 videos. And at that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have OCD. Like
Mhm.
this is what I've been dealing with my whole life. I just didn't ever know it. So,
Yeah, actually, I love hearing that because, and I know that I knew that you had found me through Instagram, and I make the reels as just a way to like help people if they can't afford services. But
Hmm.
It is kind of amazing how you can like see a handful of videos and be able to kind of go, okay, so this is what I've had for all these years. And that is one thing I think is really cool about what's happening in the world now is like 20 years ago, if you had OCD, good luck. Like trying
Agreed.
to, yeah, trying to find somebody to, you know, treat it, number one, but number two, like somebody else talking
Absolutely.
about, yeah.
Yeah.
And so for us to be in this time period where that's possible now is, I think, is just amazing.
It's brilliant. It's beautiful. Yes,
It is, it is. And so I remember from there, you did some work with no CD, right?
I
At that
did.
point too?
I
Okay.
did. Yep.
Yeah.
So my first kind of, well, I guess let me circle back a little bit. So my first, in my early 20s, when I first was like, oh my gosh, what's going on with me? I went and saw a therapist and he looked at me and he said, you just need to take a long walk. And I was like,
Uh,
oh, and at that time I was just afraid and I was like, oh, like nothing's wrong with me. I just need to take a long walk. Like, why do I have all these feelings and emotions and thoughts that I can't control? So when it popped back up in my life when I was in my early 40s, I was like, okay, like now is the time to try to figure out what's going on. So I had saw the No CD commercials. They'd pop up on our streaming app, and I'm like, I'll just reach out because it seemed super convenient. They
yeah.
would kind of take you on weekends or after hours or whatever.
Yeah.
And I did do that for a little while. I probably did that for a solid maybe 2 months
Mm-hmm.
before I started seeing you.
Yeah. And I do love them as an option too,
Hmm.
because they have a lot of flexibility in whether they take insurance or not.
Yep.
Definitely have like price plans, I feel like, for everybody, or at least they try to.
Yes.
And then yeah, like you said, around the flexibility around scheduling. So I think that there's a lot of good there for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, for if you're just in a situation and you need help now and you just need to get your foot in the door, that's a great option. It did provide a little insight into what was going on with me, but I felt like I was kind of moving at a snail's pace. Like I wanted to feel better, and I just felt like this was sort of not hitting all the marks that I wanted it to take. So
Mm,
I ended up revisiting your page and I went to your website and
yep.
I got in contact with you. And that's kind of where I really started to understand how to treat myself.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess one question I have for you is when you came into the program, what were you expecting? Like what were you thinking was going to happen? I don't know if I've ever asked you that before.
I don't think we've ever had that conversation before. Honestly, I don't think I knew what to expect. I was hoping for the best. I was in a very dark place and I knew that I needed help and I needed it to come more rapidly than I was getting. I had high expectations. We had like a complimentary call and I spoke to you and I'm like, he really gets it. Like he lives with this. It's not just, somebody that's maybe been trained on it, but he gets at the core of like what I'm going through. And so after that, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna make the jump and I'm just gonna do it and go all in. And that's what I did.
Which is what you did. I will say it was amazing to see you
Thank
just
you.
like, yeah, and I've told you that. Like it's a it's a commitment. Like I don't want to intimidate people with OCD recovery. Like you can take it at your own pace, right? Like you did that with the no CD route, and I think a lot of people kind of stumble around for a while just trying to like figure out the combination of things that work.
Mhm, mhm,
But it was so impressive to see you just like go all in on the program and just like every single call, I just feel like you were leaning in, you were doing the work. Um, I guess for people listening, they might be wondering, how did you get to that place? Like, what was the shift that helped you get into that mindset of like, I just need to do something about this?
Uh, to be honest, I felt like my back was against the wall. I was in a place where I was like, I don't know what to do. It was, from the moment I opened my eyes in the morning to the moment I fell asleep, OCD was on me, and
Mm-hmm.
I was ruminating and, checking and compulsing and doing all the things that you're not supposed to do that I didn't even know that I was supposed to be doing. But, I I just got to a place where I was like, enough is enough. And if I'm going to enter into this program, then it's going to be my focus. And I work a full-time job and, I have kids and a whole other life, but I made that time every single day to make sure that I was pushing forward on my recovery.
Yeah, which I mean was on full display when we were working together. It was
Thank
just
you.
a yeah, of course, you deserve that
Thank you.
compliment. Um, what would you say was different about our coaching program from what you had done just with therapy and everything else over the years?
I mean, there's a couple things. But the biggest thing is that I felt you really truly understood where I was at. So I felt less vulnerable. I felt like it could open up because you're like, yeah, I've been there. Like I've had that thought or, I'd struggled with that. Um, and then I I was in a place where I really wanted to move forward. And I remember getting on calls with you and I've been to traditional therapy where you just talk, 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 and I'm just spilling all my guts and all my secrets and saying everything and you'd be like, we can continue to talk about it, or we can get into the work. And I'd be like, oh. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
we should get into actually doing work because I mean, yeah, I could talk, talk, talk about it. I've already thought about it, 101 ways, and that obviously wasn't getting me a resolution. So you're like, we can continue to do it like this, or we can get into, the nitty gritty of doing the work. And I was like, aha, okay. So he's going to hold me to it. He's going to make me do the work.
Yeah, I see this all the time. I was there myself. Like it feels really productive to talk a lot about the thoughts. Feels
Hmm.
really productive.
Hmm.
But that's actually one of the main things that kind of keeps us stuck in the same spot. So
Exactly.
it was, yeah. But it was, I appreciate you because I feel like we had a good balance of the two. Like we would unpack some concepts and we would talk about them, but then when it was time to make that shift into like, all right, we've done that piece,
Yeah.
like maybe we've done a little bit of reframing, maybe we're thinking about things a little differently.
Yeah.
Like let's actually get into the tangible work. Like you're like, okay, I can do
Yep.
this.
Yep, that's exactly how it happened. I mean, we did unpack a lot of stuff. We unpacked some trauma that we talked around for a while, but I think I was just in the mindset of, okay, I'm going to get on here and we're going to talk for an hour and then that's it. And I'm going to fix myself.
Hmm.
But we really got into the letting go technique and how to write a script, and I became an excellent script writer. I wrote so many.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
I was doing the work. I was actively doing the work and putting in the time, and it makes a huge difference.
It does. It does. And there's one thing that you brought up too is like there are a lot of folks with OCD that carry a lot of trauma in their brain and bodies.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where the letting go technique can be really beneficial.
Yeah.
There's obviously, even with you, there's probably still some suppressed emotion or repressed emotions in there from
Mhm.
just a lifetime of pushing those feelings down. But we were able to release a lot of emotions around childhood trauma, things that you have been through over the course of your life. Is there anything that you can speak to about that experience?
Um, Here's the thing. I had spoke about my childhood trauma in the past to therapists, and I think they try to give me good insight or how to kind of navigate through that, but I don't think I've ever had anybody go, okay, you can accept that that happened and then let it sit there, and you can also let it go. You can let it rise up. You could be sad if you want to be sad about it, but then you're going to let it break off a little piece every time and let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was huge in my recovery because I don't think I really understood the concept of like truly letting it go. I could say that I let it go, or I could say that I was indifferent, but like truly breaking off little pieces, every time we did letting go was like, ah, okay, I get it. It works.
Yeah, and the letting go technique is something that not a lot of people in the OCD industry are doing. And there's a lot of skepticism around it. There was skepticism with me. I know you told me you're like, it wasn't until
Yeah.
sessions after that we had done it that you're like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I literally did not think that this was going to work. Can you talk to that? Because I think
Okay.
anybody who, because this interview will go up on YouTube and our podcast, and we'll have content um,
Mhm.
around the letting go technique. So there's going to be
Yeah.
skepticism from other people. We might as well address it. What is
Let's
your,
address it. Yeah.
yeah.
So when you told me about it, I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll try, I trust you. I'll try anything. But like you said, we're probably in quite a few sessions before I was like, I'm not sure how this works, or I'm not sure if it's working. I'm not sure if I'm doing it right, and you're like, no, I get it. I understand that. I live with that too, or I used to feel like that. But as we got more and more into it, and I started feeling myself feel better around these things that would just bog me down constantly, 24 hours a day, I was like, okay, I do understand how this could be helpful, how you can sit in a feeling, you can accept that it's there, you can not judge it, and then you can just peacefully let it go. Just let it go. And it was a really, really good thing for me.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I think we get caught up in like emotions almost like get hung up in our brain and bodies like a cloud would like on a
Hmm.
mountain range.
Hmm.
And we almost don't even realize that we're so stuck in it. Sometimes we do. Um, yeah.
I don't think that I realized how stuck I was. Like I had tried to, deal with trauma from my past in other ways, and I just don't think it was effective. And then once I kind of got looped into the letting go technique, I was like, of course, at first I was unsure, and then I was like, I'm feeling better, so it is working. And I would start saying those things to myself at night, doing my own version of letting go, and it does work. And I wasn't as hung up in those thoughts after, I mean, it took just some time. I wasn't like, one letting go session and I was free, but I definitely put in some work, and it definitely helps.
Yeah, it does. And that's a good point too. It does not happen overnight. And
No.
and Dr. Hawkins talks about that too. I mean, it's
Mhm.
really I mean, the way to get the most benefit out of it is to be in that kind of constant state of surrender to your feelings, like allowing them to be there so that they can come up and pass through.
Mhm.
Um, but life also happens. Like we have jobs, we have things to do. So I really loved that you took out intentional time to like do the techniques, do the
Oh,
letting
absolutely.
go, do the scripting,
Hmm.
do the exposure work.
Yeah, I did. I mean, to be honest, do scripting and listening to your voices is a weird concept. At least for me, like it felt very alien, felt very foreign when I started recording scripts and listening to myself, and I'd be like, this is so weird. This is the weirdest thing.
It is.
Um, and I tried doing it in my car. I've got a commute, so I was doing it in the morning, listening to my car. And there was a shift where I was like, I think I need to devote full attention to this. Like, yeah, I was getting some benefit out of it listening to my car, but there's all these things happening while you're driving, right? So it's not like my full attention was devoted to the actual scripting. And I kind of had to shift when I did it, and did it at a time where I could devote my full attention to it. And I think that's when it's really started making an impact on
Mm.
my recovery.
I love that for people listening too, because
Mm.
everyone always asks me that question. Can you do it while doing something else? And there's always an asterisk next to that for me as
Yeah.
the answer, but the big thing is I always want people to get started on it because the mind will always find an excuse and people will be like, well, I want to find the perfect time to do it. And I'm like, oh, well, here we go. Now it's not going to happen. So
Right.
I love that you were so devoted that you started out, I think, listening to it on your commute to work and maybe home, but
Mm-hmm.
then to hear that you were like, all right, getting a little distracted, like let me actually carve out some intentional time just to focus on this script and listen to it,
Mm-hmm.
is awesome. And that's
Yeah.
such a little nugget for people listening. I like if you're just getting started with, scripting as exposure, as, one form of doing exposure work, whatever it takes to get you started doing it,
Mm-hmm.
do that. But yeah, to Sarah's point, I do feel like, and that's the same for me. If I can minimize distractions and just kind of be all in on that scripting session, um, yeah,
Yeah.
it does work.
It makes a difference. I used to just get in the bed and pull the covers over my head and listen to it, just like, really into it, really feeling everything and listening to every word. And it definitely made, at least for me, it made a difference.
That's awesome. Um, what were some of the big mindset shifts, or were there any mindset shifts that you made through the program, or any tools that you think somebody listening would benefit from hearing?
Um, for me, it was, and something I'm still working on today, is accepting that I will have these thoughts and these thoughts will come in, and just truly embracing it. Because the more you resist it, the more OCD wants to keep you in the cycle. So it took me some time to go, oh, okay, I have to fully embrace this and kind of become one with it so I'm not afraid anymore. So it was in the beginning, it was hard for me to accept that A, I have OCD, and B, it's going to be something that's going to hang around, and it's something that I will have to forever use my tools on and just keep pushing forward. But using the tools, you do get better. You do start to feel better.
Yeah, you do. And I know I remember us having, multiple conversations around that topic, because it is, it's a tough pill to swallow at
Hmm.
first. Like the whole, this is something that's going to visit. I like to use the word visit. It's going to visit you over the course of your life. That feels a little more approachable, right? I mean,
Yeah,
otherwise it just feels very intimidating. But I think that the big thing that feels so intimidating is we all remember the time when OCD was running the show and we didn't have tools.
absolutely. And I spent a long time where it ran the show, and I was just doing everything it said and feeling awful, just an awful, truly just in a dark place. And once I started getting the tools down and understanding and accepting and embracing it, and I think I told you one day I was like, I felt like it was really slow, and then all at once that I started to feel better. Like it was just like a little better, tiny bit better. And then one day I was like, oh my gosh, I had such a good day or a good week. And it's those little things building up that, the little tools you use that build that up that help you, kind of come full circle and kind of get your life back.
Oh gosh, it still just makes me so happy because I remember that conversation.
You?
Yeah, oh
Mhm.
yeah, of course. And because I also remember, what did you say to me? You said that when you came into the program, right? You
Mhm.
were in, I think you said one of the darkest places of your life. What did you, I can't
Oh
remember.
yeah.
What did you say?
Absolutely the darkest place in my life. Absolutely. I felt like getting up every day was a chore, and was I going to make it through that day? That was every day. So
Yes.
I had to do something.
Yes. And then to hear you say that basically it was little by little and then felt like,
It was like a just like a relief of I wasn't as heavy anymore, and I wasn't constantly bogged down by these negative um, thoughts that were just constantly circling in my brain all day, and making me anxious, and all this stuff. And just one day I was like, oh, I feel like myself. Like I felt like I regained a little piece of myself. I remember that day.
and I remember that
I
conversation.
know. It was, yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. It's
Mhm.
amazing. I guess what would you say? You're out of the program now.
I
What
am.
would you say? What does your life look like? What would you say to someone was in your shoes, whatever it was, 7 months ago before you joined? What would you say to that person?
Uh, Life looks like life, like a happy life. I look forward to things. I look forward to the future. I look forward to, small things, or I look forward to, like tomorrow's going to be a good day, and I'm going to function as normally as possible. And if I need to use my tools, I have them. And it's kind of freeing once you can go, I don't have to be afraid of that all the time. Like I don't have to live like that. I can use my tools and accept it, and get to a place where you're able to live life again. Because I was in a place where I felt like I was just managing,
Mm.
just getting by, basically. And now, I'm looking forward to things, and things I'm excited, and I can plan things in the future instead of being like, oh no, but what is OCD gonna, have for me? What it's gonna be in store for tomorrow, or for that special occasion or whatever. So
Freedom. Ah, makes me so happy. Yeah.
Yeah,
We talked
absolutely.
about that. We talked about that though, it's and that's why we do a little vision exercise in the program too of like what can your life look like while also still acknowledging that you have OCD, just not OCD running the show. And to hear you say that, you're looking forward to things again. I remember there was one session where you were like, I laughed at a show, like I laughed at
Yes,
something funny. I think you started singing again, like you
I
were,
did.
yeah,
All the little things that gave me pleasure in life that I completely stopped doing because I was in such a bad place, like singing in the car to a fun song or, laughing at a funny show or, like putting on makeup or taking a long shower. Like all of those things were so wrapped up in OCD that I was just like urgently trying to get to the next thing. Like I couldn't enjoy anything, because I
yeah.
was like, I got to get back to where I can go sit down and ruminate, like I can't enjoy anything. And it was just small things where I'm like, oh, I must be feeling better. I was just singing that song, or, that show actually made me laugh out loud, which I hadn't done in months. So it was freeing and lovely, really nice.
Ugh, makes me so happy. So I guess if somebody asked you what to do, what would you say to them? Like,
Mm, I would say don't wait to get help. Um, don't wait to find somebody. Um, if you can find Zach, find Zach. If you need to go through another route, do that, but don't put it on the back burner and hope that it's
mm,
going to go away. Because I spent some time going, one day I'm going to wake up and it's going to be gone, and all these problems we solve, they'll be fine. Um, and I, I would say just go find the help, whatever in whatever form that you can that's appropriate for your life. Go find that help and start working on yourself to feel better because it's no way to live.
I agree, and that's such a good point too. Whatever the help is that's appropriate
Mhm,
for your life, right? Because
mhm,
everybody's different. Our program is more hands-on and
mhm,
it's like way more in depth.
mhm,
Um, but that's a different investment than, some of the other options that are out there too. So it's just like find the thing that is going to work, like that you can at least move forward with, and then just kind of build from there and
mhm.
just take it one step at a time. So I love that you said that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just get the help where you can. I mean, even if you start small, just, try to get your help. And then also, you know, recovery is possible. I want to say
Mm,
that. I spent a
mm,
long time going, oh, I'm treatment resistant, or, nothing's going to work. That's what OCD would tell me. Oh, you must be treatment resistant. You must be, you're the one case that, nobody can fix you. You're
mm.
doomed and you're going to be like this forever. Um, and, there is help and you can recover. You absolutely can. I'm living proof. So,
Oh, makes me so happy. Makes me so happy to hear.
me too.
One thing I was curious about, I never asked you this. Did you find the tech support in between the sessions helpful?
Absolutely. And the voice messages as well.
Yeah,
Like,
the voice messages.
the
Yeah.
voice messages are really cool. For me, it was, if it was a comfort to have, like, if I knew if I was going to have a bad day or something bad was happening, I knew I could send you a text and we'd work on a strategy together. Right. So I wouldn't feel like, oh, you just got to figure this out for yourself. So if something was happening that day, I would just shoot you a text and you'd usually send me a voice message back. And, we'd kind of work on a strategy together. I wasn't alone. And like your podcast is, you're not alone. And you did not make me feel alone. I felt supported. And sometimes I would set up scheduled text messages to send you the next morning because it was probably late and I was in the bed. I'm like, I don't want to text him right now. He's probably
Oh,
asleep.
you're so considerate. Oh my gosh, I never knew that. That's so
Yeah.
nice of you.
So when you would get the text message at 8 a.m. exactly, it was because I had like scheduled it in there to be like, I want to say this to him, but I'm not going to do it right now. I'm gonna.
Yeah, and even then, when they would come in right at like 8 a.m., I'm like, oh my gosh, she's like so considerate. She's like not gonna text me before like normal work hours. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I never
I
knew that.
scheduled those. Yes, I did.
That's that's awesome. And
Yeah.
I like the voice notes. I feel like it makes it, personable. And you can hear like the tone of my voice. So I think that that's
Mhm.
important, but I can have a conversation with you and it's a little bit easier because otherwise with text, like it we would text back a little bit here and there, but I like the voice messages just because I feel like I can give you the full idea or the full concept, and I wouldn't be able
Mhm.
to do that with
Mhm.
texting as much.
Yeah, and it always helps to hear like the tone in somebody's voice and
Yeah.
like you always, sympathetic or you gave good advice, we come up with a plan and it's nice to be able to hear that. Like text is a little impersonal at times or maybe you don't catch the tone, but it always felt when I got my voice message, I was like, okay, like I can get through this. We're gonna work through this. It just gave you that little extra boost of I can do this.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And you did. You can do it and
I
you did
can.
do it.
And I did, yeah.
Yeah, and it was so fun to just watch you, little by little transform your life over the course of the program and to see where you're at now is just it's amazing. So, I'm super proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your help and, motivating me and keeping me going. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think what you said too, like that's such a powerful line. Hope for recovery is possible.
It is. And I always think I feel bad, when I think of people out there living with OCD who either are experiencing it and don't know where to go or they feel like they're a hopeless case. Like I felt like that. I felt like that for a long time. And then it is possible because I recovered and I literally OCD used to tell me that nope, you're the one case that's going to be treatment resistant and you're not going to be able to, but I'm living proof.
It's amazing. And just so you know, so many people with OCD have that thought and believe it. So
Mhm.
for you to say that, I'm really hoping that some folks with OCD hear that and they go, okay, maybe I don't have to believe this thought anymore. Maybe I can do something about this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't believe the lies it tells you.
It's amazing, Sarah. It's amazing. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing your inspiring story. This is going to give somebody else hope. And we always talk about the ripple effect. We have no idea who this is going to impact, but I know that your story is going to give somebody the little push that they need to get started on their path. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.